when we can individually come into as much wholeness as possible, for lack of a better word, we're unfuckable with.
Yeah.
And so we are, again, on that sovereign path, right? We cannot be controlled. This is what's under attack. It's like when we remove the feminine and we distort the masculine.
Totally.
Okay. Because it's not like we can't be pointing the finger at men here.
No. Oh, they've been fucked with as well. Everyone.
Totally. Absolutely. And for women, when we're void of mother and then we're put into very quote unquote patriarchal systems.
Yeah.
That is like a wounded, I don't even like using the word patriarch, but it's just like an inversion of the masculine, right?
Yeah.
We're running those programs. And then women, a lot of women who get really triggered by this next comment, by the way, when I say is we expect men to treat us like women, but we don't even know what women are because we're not connected to our woman.
So true.
To be connected to our woman, we must be connected to womb. We must be dissolving all of those synthetic programs. Otherwise, we're literally telling men that this is what a woman is otherwise. Yeah. So I really believe it all starts with the mother.
Yeah.
And it's a restoration of mother, primordial mother, her frequency on this planet that is awakening. This is what's happening with truth. This is what's happening with, oh, this is why the feminine has been wiped out or suppressed or oppressed or whatever it is. And not only that, cool. Then it's let's wipe it out, but let's also invert it.
Yeah.
Let's invert your understanding of sexuality and sexual expression. Let's embed these literally like dark technologies, like pornography or all of this other shit that is literally siphoning creational life force.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we can't create, which is our birthright, how do we evolve? We can't evolve. And so the point here is to stunt our evolution. And that's why the sun is so important, because it's the sun that helps us evolve.
The calling of creativity is an invitation to take responsibility for who you really are. Who are you? Because nobody can tell you who you are. It's something you discover in yourself. You make a choice to be it and claim it. That is what we are calling out to you today in this clarifying conversation around truth, discernment, and calling out the crap with Selvia Filteau. Art is a lie that helps us know the truth. And when we tap into our creativity, we get to know our truth. We get to know who we really are inside. But in order to actually express ourselves, we first must have a self to express. On the subject of creativity, I have 13 spots open for people who are ready to become unstuck, unlock their creative voice, and make life not boring again. My newest course offering based on the life-changing methodology from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. This is the very same approach that helped me birth this podcast that you're listening to, as well as my Every Phase series and my book. I'm hosting an in-person group in Macon, if you're in the area. For those not in the area, I'm also hosting a virtual version. So 2 groups meeting once a week for 13 weeks, starting April 29th. It's $375 for a limited time and also limited to just 13 people. So if you'd like to learn more, email me or drop a comment and I will message you with all of the creative details. Even if just 10% of you clicked on subscribe, liked, or commented, regardless if you're interested in the creativity course or not, it would completely change the reach of this show. Also, rating on Apple or Spotify would increase our viewership tenfold and help the show in ways you can't even imagine, and help the people who need to hear this information be able to readily access it. Thank you also for having the bravery to face your shit and heal yourself by listening to this show, because this is more than just a podcast. It is a movement. In addition to subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing for free, you can support this movement with a one-off donation or become a member for as low as $5 a month and receive exclusive art deals, be featured on the show, submit questions for guests, and so much more. I created this show because after unraveling all the medical and pharmaceutical lies I'd been told about my endometriosis, I educated myself and I was able to heal myself after almost 20 years of debilitating pain. My experience inspired me to actually live my art. So not only did I create this podcast, I first created an ongoing art series about it called Every Phase, where I create artwork that illustrates how I healed myself as I live by the phases of the female hormonal cycle. The artwork and the writing show what's happening in the brain and the body during each phase and reveal how to biohack and leverage this energy in your life. I am actually living the art, so it's about way more than just healing. The writing and the art discuss truth, freedom, our current financial and healthcare system slavery, as well as the way out of it. Learn more and be the first to receive each new monthly piece by subscribing on my Substack at anothereffingartist.substack.com. So all of that to say, even though I was lied to for years by doctors promoting big pharma, I was able to find experts who helped me achieve what I thought was impossible. This show introduces them to you. Today, we are chatting with former federal agent turned spiritual mentor and leader in the art of discernment, Selvia Filteau. For 17 years, Selvia served as a federal agent in international covert operations, navigating environments where every decision could mean life or death. In those high-stakes, pressure-filled moments, she honed her ability to lead with precision, stay grounded in chaos, and trust her intuition to make the right calls. But despite outward success, a deep, unshakable void lingered within. After 2 dark nights of the soul, grappling with burnout and pushing herself to the limit at the height of her career, Selvia made a life-altering decision to walk away from a world straight out of a spy novel. That shift opened her eyes to a powerful truth. Without a deep spiritual connection to the natural world, she wouldn't have had the resilience to survive and ultimately thrive. Choosing to trust her higher self, she embarked on a transformative journey of spiritual awakening and personal alignment. This new path has led her to the most fulfilling chapter of her life. Today, Selvia works with leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and executives, guiding them to expand their consciousness, tap deeper into their purpose, and cultivate peace across every area of their lives. Her mission is to help others step into their sovereignty, embody clarity, and establish unshakable inner authority, creating integrity from within that ripples out into the world. As an ordained and initiated priestess, certified breathwork facilitator, legally ministered shaman with a master's degree in psycho-spiritual studies, Selvia draws upon a decade of entrainment in the spiritual and intuitive arts, utilizing various modalities and frameworks acquired from formal training, personal experience, her lineage, and her personal journey of expansion. Selvia designs bespoke, white glove experiences on sacred lands around the globe, restoring luxe, light, to luxury, where profound transformational work meets elite mentorship to foster rapid growth and spiritual awakening. Through a tailored process, Selvia guides you to reconnect with your true essence, unlock your innate wisdom, and elevate your consciousness. Each journey is crafted to activate, heal, and evolve your DNA, catalyzing deep, lasting transformation. If you're ready to tap into your highest potential and step into a life of true inner authority, contact Selvia to begin your transformative journey together.
Hey.
Thank you so much for your kind words on my art. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
it is. I mean, it's incredible, really. I was just looking at a bunch of the different pieces and I'm like, I cannot understand how inspiration can come through to just like project onto this like canvas. Yeah, like we all do art in our own way, but essentially like you have to have such like deep vision to create something like that. Just like, other than some stick figures and some good color and water paints, like that's, that is my, that's sort of, yeah, my, that's where my capacity lays.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought you'd be interested, so that's why I send it out to you and just people that I like. But
Oh,
yeah, like you can't turn it off. I'm in no shortage of ideas, trust me.
oh,
It's
beautiful.
nonstop all the time. Sometimes it's like you have to filter through stuff. But I feel like that comes a lot from it's the womb space. That's
Mhm,
where I go. It's the sacral
mhm,
chakra. It's like that's where
100%.
I go every morning when I meditate. That's where I go to reconnect with my inner
Mm,
child, with everything. Like it's the waters of womb. And it's
yeah.
like you dip in, and that's the waters of all the creative messages and all of that. And it's literally just a toe in is like
Mm,
all of that. So I'm like, "Man,
yeah.
I'm not even like," I'm like, "Okay, like a toe in." And it's
Mhm.
amazing, like, how much we can get from just these very simple practices. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
100%. Once we really, yeah, because the practice, I feel anyways, becomes a lot more simplistic once we regulate the nervous system enough to hold enough presence to be in the simple practices that really
Yeah.
expand you exponentially, right? Otherwise, it's it's kind of hard to get to.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to dip that toe in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of presence and being with yourself, being in your own body, holy shit, that's been coming up so much. I'd love for you to share just a little bit
Yeah.
about how you've come to face your shit, be present with yourself, leading you to who you are, the work you do today.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It'd be an honor. I just want to say thank you, by the way, for bringing me on here and
Yeah.
yeah, offering me just this opportunity to use my voice and do some storytelling. I love some good storytelling. So,
Great.
yeah, my intention is always just to simply, however, my words come through this vessel, may they land in the hearts of those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And may that be for the greatest good of all. So that's sort of where I go with it. It's for me, it's been a long journey. And I love the title of this podcast because it's so aligned. It's so aligned with my way of how I come into service with all the things, right? It's face your shit, heal yourself. It's like simple, right? So yeah, it really, for me, we're always on the journey, whether we're consciously unaware of it,
Right.
right? And how I really came into, well, the work I do came a lot after, but I was on a journey of inner healing and facing my shit for quite some time before I began to like really be of service in this way, like in holistic healing and spiritual mentorship and all these things. But I would have to say that we go through many awakenings, not just this one big Kundalini awakening. And it's like, I really believe that we go through multiple. There's always one that feels just like really like big. And then, like, and anyway, so for me, it was multiple. My first sort of awakening into what you want to call like the world of esoteric concepts or expanded spirituality or simply just holistic healing and all of this was truly when I became a mom. That's 100% where it really began. And it was as a result of a lot of the trauma I faced bringing my children into the world. And
Wow.
so the very first, so my daughters who are now 15 and 13, who love me
Nice.
so much.
Rich ages. I love those ages.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. This is a whole other phase. But essentially, yeah, like with my first daughter, of course, at that time, I was doing the best I could with what I knew. And I was very consciously unaware. I was doing the healthy eating and I was doing the movement. But I had no idea that we could even as women go seek out a doula. And
Right.
that was like, okay. Like at that time, I had no idea what it meant to actually bring a life through this body in a natural way and feared it deeply, right? Because I mean, those are the stories we're told and also the stories that were not told.
Totally.
Yeah. So for me, the first time that I had, well, my first child, I went into the hospital thinking it was like I was going on 42 hours of labor. They had tried to induce me twice. I was quote unquote 10 days late. So I was 40 plus weeks. It was just this really tumultuous. The pregnancy itself was beautiful, really, truly. Like I was nauseous for the first couple of weeks, but I had a pretty good pregnancy and I was very healthy. My nervous system
Hmm.
was still very dysregulated at that time. I was still like at the beginning of my policing career, dealing with a lot of like post traumatic stress and just a lot of things were going on where my nervous system was very dysregulated. And so, as we know now, of course, as women, when we have dysregulated nervous systems, our wombs suffer big time in many ways, whether that's energetically or physically. So, I can get into that later. But
Yeah.
so nobody really prepared me for the opening. Nobody really prepared me for that. And so when I went into labor, I ended up getting an emergency C-section. My daughter almost died. I wasn't able to dilate even after they were inducing. So
Mhm.
she literally got stuck and she almost suffocated. So it was a traumatic experience for both of us actually. So that was my first, uh-oh, okay, what's up here as a woman? Like, what's going on? That got me walking the journey. And then when I had my second daughter the second time around, I died on the table with a
Wow.
scheduled C section because I was made to feel that I wasn't allowed to even give birth naturally. I was told the information I was given was that, like, basically I'm broken and that I have to go in for a scheduled C section as a result of what happened the first time. So there was no approach to holistic anything. And I died. I literally flatlined on the table. And I remember it all happening. Just like a typical scene from what you would see on some
Mhm.
ER or Grey's Anatomy or whatever. Anyway. And yeah, so I died on the table. And I remember like seeing my daughter and she was like on my shoulder. My husband was right there. We looked at each other and then I started fading because I was like trying to grab the anesthesiologist behind me. And I was like, my head is going to explode. It's like my head. And then all of a sudden I went from that to like, and it was just like rush. Everybody was rushing. And then the next thing I literally saw the typical white light. They
Yeah.
removed my husband from the room, everything. And I couldn't even see my daughter for the first 5 hours of her life because I was in a recovery room and they were monitoring my heart. And so that then propelled me into another rabbit hole journey of, okay, like I'm a woman and my body is designed for this. What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on? So that's how I started. And then, of course, it's been a 17-year journey. So, or 15, I should say, from that point, but 17 total.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And there's so many things I totally relate to, especially the dying part.
Yeah.
Right? And just
Yeah.
being so disconnected, like what you just said. Our bodies were designed for this and for this cycle, for cyclical living in general.
Mhm.
And it's just such a big ass blaring, like, megaphone as to this is how disconnected we are. Like,
Yeah.
that this is what we're actually designed for and not of any fault of our own, like, we're born into it. We're born into a world that tells us this is your cross to bear, birth is really hard, periods are
Yeah.
gonna suck, your life is gonna suck, you're gonna go through all these changes because 'cause you're not like a man, because 'cause you're cyclical, that's inconvenient, we can't
Right.
predict your behavior. So, that's a
Yeah.
problem. Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
it's
You
wild.
know, and that's what I mean is words. Never mind just like all the programming and like inversions that you're speaking to, but simply put,
Yeah,
like when we speak this way and we like culturalize things this way, we literally create the world.
yeah.
So words create worlds. And so, yeah.
It's normal,
Yeah.
it's normalized, like how you were saying, it's, "Oh, yeah, you're gonna have to do this," like, you might die, but
Yeah.
it's just like, "Next,
Yeah.
okay, 15 minutes is what insurance covers, so next, C-section because that is gonna make us" it's all charted out to be a freaking sales funnel. Like,
100%. Yeah,
that's so
100%.
crazy.
Like, I can't even tell. I mean, that just that full, as I reflect back, which I've done many times because I've had to really do profound healing simply on the grief and the trauma
Yeah.
in so many different ways. Like, but again, not to be victimized by it, but essentially to turn it into gold, to be here and even speaking about it and really hoping that whoever can hear this can resonate and it might support them on their journey. But what I'm trying to
Yes.
say here is even when I look back on that time and simply even just like the check-ins with the doctor, like throughout my pregnancy, it's like these like 10 minutes, not even
Yeah.
clocked in, clocked out. I remember the doctor telling me, yeah, it's totally fine to, what did I say? I made a joke, I think, in the office. I was like, oh, so I guess I have to quit drinking ice caps or something. Like in Canada, we have this thing called ice cappuccino. It's like Tim Hortons. It's like the worst possible shit for you. It's like full of
I'm sure.
chemicals, but again, like that was then. This is
Mhm.
now. And so it's like,
Sure.
I guess I have to quit drinking these iced cappuccinos. And then he's, no, it's totally fine. There's nothing. There's so many things I can go on and on about. And thank God I had that experience. Thank God I went through
Yeah.
that because it did really offer me a rebirth, like in so many ways. So, like, my daughters did that. Like, their little souls signed up to come into the world this way. And it was, my awakening. And so that's the greatest gift that they're going to give me. So,
Yeah. And it's really, and I'm so, your daughters, wow. I know 13 and 15 are really tough ages, but like, holy shit, to have a parent, a mother especially, as a girl growing up or woman that understands the feminine polarity and has had
Mm,
this kind of awakening in the way that you have,
yeah.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was something that first drew me to your work, this whole feminine, I'm always in the feminine conversation, specifically the solar versus lunar
Oof.
feminine. So the we're just talking, yeah, this is like the juicy because everyone's, oh, the moon cycle, oh, the moon change.
Mhm.
So guess that means you're gonna change. All of this, like all of this about the moon, all of this about the connection to, or what we've been told, because
Yeah.
what we've been told is a bag full of lies, but what we've been told that women are connected to the moon and ruled by the moon and all of that. I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the distortions around this and
Yes.
how it relates to the womb space.
Oof. So thank you. I'm going to do my best to sum that one up. Because this is like, I could do like a whole series on this.
I do it. Listen, we may do
Yes.
like a part 2, part 3 because it needs to be talked about because that's
Yeah.
how they don't want people tapping into the power
Right.
of the womb because
Right.
then we are literally uncontrollable.
100%. Like, and real sovereignty, like true sovereignty is understanding that it's understanding many things, but essentially it's really, I'll just speak for women. Okay. I'm not going to put men in the hole at this point, but we have this organic technology that is our womb. It is as much part of us as within, still without, as much part of the universe as like the womb universe, or universe has womb. Gaia, Mother Earth, has womb. So we can go on and on about that. And when you say they attack the womb, we can get into all the different aspects of what they means. These are really expanded concepts. So I don't want to really like bypass, because some people are just gonna be like, what the hell is she talking about? But
Right.
right. But so where I want to begin with this topic is just so I can offer a little bit of insight as to what we mean when we're speaking to a synthetic matrix or an organic matrix. And matrix, keep in mind, is the word for like mother, matter, essentially primordial mother, womb. It's another womb. Matrix is a womb.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a womb of creation. So
Yeah.
whether we are creating something that is very synthetic or whether we are creating something that is very organic, some people may argue that synthetic is not by God. It's not God. It's all God. It's just various expressions of God, minus the certain things that have really truly fallen from God purposely and really siphon the life force and all that. So that's a whole other topic. But I'm trying to stay on track here. But
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. So let's just, for lack of understand, or for like better understanding, excuse me, if we just speak to an organic matrix and a synthetic matrix, and we look at the earth, okay, look at Mother Earth, Gaia, she's alive, right? She has a soul. She's a consciousness altogether. She hosts us. She hosts evolution, right? And on top of that, every soul essentially has a contract, right? So part of her contract through this evolution, especially for humanity, is to hold us as we learn how to navigate duality.
Right.
And it's many other things. Like I said, I'm just trying to keep it real simple
Yeah.
right now. So
Yeah.
if we look at it from this perspective, we understand that everything in life that we face is really a contrast between fear and love. And essentially a lot of the synthetic overlay. So if you can imagine literally like a grid, like this energetic grid, I call it a grid. And it's like
Yeah.
this gridding that is like very synthetic that comes from, with, you want to call it beings, entity, organizations, systems that are all designed to resource, not from God, but to siphon and resource. And so the design of this synthetic matrix, which is extremely important to our human evolution, learning to contrast, understanding how to come into wholeness and all this. Okay. So it's just as important.
Hmm.
Okay. Sure, it's dense. Sure, there's aspects of it dense, like the density, and some people call it evil or dark. And I don't even like to use the word dark because dark is actually not a bad word. But if you look at this overlay, synthetic overlay, and you can see like a lot of the systemic deception that comes from it, right? So we look at different systems like the medical system, the certain school systems. We look at government institutions, government systems, and food organizations and systems that produce really crappy food. And there's so much that you can point the finger and be like, they.
Hmm.
That's the synthetic matrix. Keep in mind that synthetic matrix is also constructed on your values, your imprinted beliefs, and your imprinted patterns. So that synthetic system lives within you just as much as it lives outside of you. Now,
Interactive.
right,
Yeah.
right. So an organic matrix is truly everything that has been organically evolved in nature. The forests, the jungles, the waters, everything that Gaia has literally through her evolved in this sort of like natural environment, naturalist, right? So when we can understand and start really feeling into, okay, like what is synthetic and what is organic, we start to understand that from the perspective of womb as a space of creation, when there's like a control mechanism that is bestowed upon or impeded on this space of creation. So we've got to think of like Gaia is a space of creation as well. There's a womb of creation in this. And like when we're constantly extracting from her, right? We're extracting the life force, we're extracting from her, right? There's a whole other game that gets played there. And the more we can extract from your life force, the more dependent you become on those synthetic systems.
Right. Yeah. It's vampirism because
Right.
when you cut yourself off, you're no longer naturally recharging the source with the oneness of all things. You're not
Right.
a part of it. So you have to get it from somewhere else, something else.
Exactly. And so you will never be sovereign.
Right.
You might think you are because you might have all the money in the world, or so many. I hear this all the time, especially, gosh, it's like, when I make X amount, I'm free. When I have enough time, I'm
Yeah.
free. It's no, so
Yeah.
long as you attach your freedom to something, you're never going to be free. So when I talk about like the sovereign path and coming home to the womb, coming home to the space of creation, it's a huge journey of unravel of so many things. When we really understand ourselves as an organic technology that is in right relationship to God, goddess, source, creation, right? We are sovereign. We don't need to constantly resource outside the self.
Yeah. Because we are it.
We are it.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
the roots of narcissism as well, which
Yeah.
psychic vampirism, it's all just different words for the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that answered the question because I went on a tangent there. Like, what was yeah. I was
Basically explaining the solar versus the lunar
oh my God.
feminine.
I went way off topic. Yeah. Okay.
That's
Let's get into
okay.
that.
It's important. It's
Yeah.
important.
Okay. Well, let me get to the solar versus the lunar. Okay. So now that I've explained a little bit of how I see these sort of like synthetic and organic gridding, right? So
Yeah.
we know that there's an organic grid on Gaia, but there's also the synthetic grid.
Before we continue with the episode, check out this incredible creative opportunity. The calling of creativity is an invitation to take responsibility for who you really are. Who are you? Because nobody can tell you who you are. You get to discover it, choose it, and claim it. And it isn't something that's bound by pronouns or what you wear or what's between your legs. Art is a lie that helps us realize the truth. And when we tap into our creativity, we get to know that person inside. We get to know our truth. We get to know ourselves. Because in order to express yourself, you first must have a self to express. I have 13 spots open for people who are ready to unlock their creative voice, get unstuck, and make life not boring again. Which was actually inspired by one of the questions I got at our very first panel talk at Third Street Studio. So I listened and decided to teach the life-changing methodology from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. This is the same approach that helped me creatively recover, heal, launch my Every Phase series, my book, and my podcast. I cannot even begin to tell you how much this methodology and this book completely changed my life. It would be like a 3-hour video. However, it's not just the book we'll be going through. I've added shadow work practices, different modalities, nervous system regulation, and some various things I've learned along the way that I wish that I would have known about while I was going through this journey. However, you do not need to call yourself an artist for this to help you. This is for you if you feel like you only make work because someone's paying you, or you're stifled by becoming a content creator, like you've lost a part of yourself or become completely numb to creating. You don't feel like you have an actual voice or unique style. Or maybe you're burnt out by the business side of things in your creative career. Basically, if you want the benefits of a mushroom trip or ayahuasca journey, but don't want to do either of those, definitely take this course. We start April 29th for 13 weeks. I'm hosting an in-person in Macon if you're in the area, and I'm also hosting a virtual version. So 2 groups. If this is something that interests you, message me, send me an email, or comment below, and I will get back to you with all of the creative details. I look forward to embarking on this creative journey with you. And remember, as always, the truth will set you free.
Well, the moon as an entity is the same. And there is what I believe anyway, and what I've experienced, but anyway, there's a synthetic gridding, right, on the moon that siphons a lot of various aspects of energy. And again, like it bestows inverted blueprints on the feminine principle. So when I say the feminine principle, I don't mean just women, like on the essence of the feminine, which is also within men, right? Yin, yang, masculine, feminine. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not about, oh, the moon is fake. No, the moon is very real. It's there. It's very real.
Yeah.
But I can also talk about what led me to all this essentially and really understanding the solar feminine, because like I fell for it. Look, I'm not going to lie, especially when I was stepping onto like my spiritual path and like opening up to the feminine. And everything was like the moon, the moon, the moon. And
The moon.
everything was like the goddess circle and follow the moon for your like bleed cycle. And it was just okay. And then I chose to go deeper and I chose to really refine my discernment and I chose to abstain from the moon. And as I refined and sharpened my discernment, I could see how these really almost like very parallel, very mirrored synthetic threads would mimic the organic within the feminine.
Wow.
And a lot of it would come from these like beliefs and these programs around the moon. So
Oh my
I
God.
had I had a huge, I would say another third awakening or fourth awakening at a time. It was back in 2018, 2019. But the lands of Africa, I was in Africa. I was still working in the government, the policing and all this. And I had a really profound experience, spiritual experience actually, while I was in Mali. I was in Africa. And for years, I really didn't talk about it because I actually really thought I was crazy. And at that time, I had already been walking, like I'd been in training in the shamanic space and doing a lot of like walking the priestess path. So I was already fairly like awakened and pretty conscious of things. And really, those lands, just like any other sacred land, it holds codes, it holds information. There's a lot of things. So, like when I can go, I don't want to go into the whole story, but essentially what happened is I was actually supposed to be on duty that one morning. I'm on my way to a meeting. I come out, I'm on this like special forces base camp in the middle of Mali desert, red sand everywhere. And I'm like really compelled as I'm coming out of my room to take my boots off and put my bare feet in the red sand. I'm like, okay, I'm going to look completely stupid doing this, but I was like really compelled to do it. So I go to do it, put my feet in the sand. And within not even 10 seconds, I hear this. It was this almost like there was a wind, but there was no wind. And it was like, look up. And I was like, I looked up. It was like the sun was beaming, like just beaming on me. And I could immediately feel the presence of what, like in the ancient Egyptian mysteries, like we call Ra, the sun god.
Mhm.
And again, within moments of that, like illumination, literally, like this coding that was happening through the sun and the intelligence of the sun was like getting right into my mitochondria and like expressing
Yeah.
myself and all the things. And I was like, I had this vision, like this powerful vision of probably some of the worst things that could potentially happen to children and where they were all buried in the land.
Wow.
And I had no idea that, and it was, anyways. And so I had this vision. It freaked me the hell out. It felt so real. And it really felt that although I had seen Ra, it was like the great mother. Even though it was like this masculine solar energy, it felt like it was the great mother that
Mhm.
was like, wake up, get out of there. You are misaligned. There's more for you. And of course, like my vision became corroborated through my work in the government just like a few days later. So
Wow.
there's that piece. Okay, that's then. Moving forward, a couple of years, more healing, more expanding, more understanding, letting go of the moon in so many ways. I'm deeply connected to ancient Egypt. Like I study the mysteries. I'm a legally ordained priestess through Fellowship of Isis, all the things. Like these are just titles, but essentially, like I can do a whole podcast on just how like Egypt has always been just this essential part of my life, even just as a little girl, and like some really interesting things that happened there. But I've been so deeply connected to those lands. And for some reason, I never even knew that there was this wonderful tribe called the Dogon tribe that fled ancient Kemet. So Egypt is also Kemet, that they fled Kemet when the templates began to turn and all the corruption started happening. And they left and they like landed in Mali.
Right.
And this
Wow.
is one of the only tribes that speak to, they literally hold the stories of their ancestors. And they talk about a time before the moon.
I've heard of this. I've heard of
Yeah.
this. Yeah. Where
So
women started having menstrual cycles once the moon
yeah.
came.
So I'm giving like tiny little pieces, but essentially it's been like a 5-year journey of synchronicities, experiences, deep gnosis, like embodied gnosis
Yeah.
of what it actually like what the solar frequencies actually are, and what they actually are essentially are like true union codes. And nobody ever talks about, everybody talks about Ra, sun
Mhm.
god Ra. Nobody really talks, like she hasn't been mainstreamed. Nobody talks about Rayet Tawi, which is the feminine solar goddess,
Mhm.
like the feminine aspect of Ra.
Yeah.
So there's many, that's just like the history of it. But when we really get into it, we start understanding, just look at some of the pieces around moon consciousness, where it's like, oh, women are crazy. Women are
Mhm.
crazy around the moon. Women are crazy right before they bleed. Lunatic. Lunatic. Right?
They
Like think of
program
these
yeah.
things. Think
Yeah.
of like just how hard these sort of synthetic threads, the synthetic matrices, the synthetic programs try to mimic the organic.
Yes.
So I do really believe, and so much of the darker alchemy,
Mhm.
or some people call it dark magic, whatever. Okay, but a lot of those darker alchemical rituals, everything is moon, the moon, the moon, the moon.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. We have never been taught as women that our true frequency is solar. We have never been taught that our wombs are warm.
Yeah.
It's not this cold place. Like the true feminine frequency is like mother. It's mother is nurture. You evolve with nurture. You evolve with the sun. You grow with the sun. You don't grow with the moon.
That's true. That's very
Okay.
true.
Like, I mean,
And th
again, I can go on and on about all the pieces, right?
there's
But there,
yeah.
there's a reincarnation piece to moon lunar frequency. Okay. The essence of there's a reincarnation piece. So it's like a death, rebirth, death, rebirth. But our true divine sovereign path is eternal.
Totally.
We're not, we're
Totally.
actually not meant to consistently, because that reincarnation process is what keeps us in the density and keeps us siphoned, right? There's so many pieces of this that we can get into.
Wow. That yeah, that's a just the reincarnation process, which of course and that gets into starseed wanderer conversation where it's
Yeah.
like moving forward versus coming back from higher densities, all this other stuff.
Oh,
Whole other
yeah, yeah.
conversation.
Totally,
But
totally.
the what really stood out to me about what you were saying too, it's almost like they want to or the goal of all of this mimicking is to not only have complete control of the feminine polarity, but to create something different, to create a
Oh, yeah.
new feminine polarity. Whereas, and I love what you also said too, where dark isn't a bad word because you come into when you learn more about like the Hindu deities, you come into the dark feminine, and dark is just what's unknown. And dark,
Right.
listen, those goddesses, it's very different from us in the West, where they've told us it's just about being feminine, is just about nurturing and
Yeah.
being nice. No, it's the
No.
guardians of sacred truth, is
Yes.
how what I resonate with, what I have felt, and how I think of true, raw feminine power, which they don't
Yeah.
and no one talks about, like how you were saying, they talk about men more being that role or like leadership or defending. But like when it comes to these sacred things like sexuality,
Yeah.
like pregnancy stuff, there and even Mother Earth, even Mother Gaia, that is
Yeah.
like a feminine role for both men and women tapping into your feminine,
Yeah.
calling out the bullshit. And they don't want people to call out the bullshit. So
Yeah.
that's why they, in my opinion, degraded it into this nice, yay. daisies
Yeah.
and roses and have babies and stay at home and let the man do
Yeah.
everything kind of like world that we live in.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, like yes, I agree. It's you know, it's funny because I just did I'm actually just finishing up actually, but I've been doing a little series on the Magdalene and Mary Magdalene,
Oh,
and really in a way that I believe hasn't really been taught before because it's not so much about what the particulars of her story was and like what are the downloads and all. No, it's more about what is the essence of the Magdalene, right? That is like literally so needed today as to why it's like coming up so much more in our collective. And like
yeah.
the true essence of the Magdalene is simply the true essence of a very integrated, embodied, rooted feminine principle, right?
Right.
That is like literally rooted in mother, not rooted in wounded maiden. And so this is the problem. And it's not to
Mm.
judge or shame anyone. We've all had our wounded maiden moments, and many of us are still healing through that. But what I'm trying to say here is that what happens when you have a world void of mother,
Mhm.
right? Men and women both, right? This expresses itself in different ways through men and women. But what happens is when you have a world void of mother, everybody is running off very immature, synthetic, I say like energy, if you will, or synthetic behavior or synthetic patterns. And so I'm going to talk about a little bit about Magdalene because what I believe truly is that like these women who came to this planet to embody like something like the Magdalene, to be
Yeah.
like to hold a ministry, these were women that held solar feminine codes. And that to me, I believe, is one of the biggest reasons why, for instance, the Magdalene was so written out. It wasn't about just writing out the feminine, it was about writing out the solar feminine.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. Anything that
Yeah.
doesn't match the narrative, anything that doesn't match has to be go.
Yeah. But it is the true union template.
Mhm.
The solar feminine holds the true union template. And when we can individually, even like within ourselves, come into as much wholeness as possible, for lack of a better word, we're unfuckable with.
Yeah.
And so we are, again, on that sovereign path, right? We cannot be controlled. This is what's under attack is like when we remove the feminine and we distort the masculine,
Totally.
okay? Because it's not like we can't be pointing the finger at men here.
No. Oh, they've been fucked with as well. Everyone
Totally.
is. Everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for women, when we're void of mother and then we're put into very quote unquote patriarchal systems,
Yeah.
that is like a wounded, I don't even like using the word patriarch, but it's just like an inversion of the
Totally.
masculine,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
We're running those programs. And then women, a lot of women who get really triggered by this next comment, by the way, when I say is we expect men to treat us like women,
Mhm.
but we don't even know what women are because we're not connected to our woman.
So true.
To be connected to our woman, we must be connected to womb. We must be dissolving all of those synthetic programs. Otherwise, we're literally telling men that this is what a woman is
Yeah.
otherwise. So I really believe it all starts with the mother.
Yeah.
And it's a restoration of mother, primordial mother, her frequency on this planet that is awakening and bringing the shadows up.
Yeah.
This is what's happening with truth. This is what's happening with, oh, this is why the feminine has been wiped out
Mhm.
or or suppressed or oppressed or whatever it is. And not only that, cool. Then it's let's wipe it out, but let's also invert it.
Yeah.
Let's invert your understanding of sexuality and sexual expression. Let's invert, let's embed these literally like dark technologies, like pornography or all of this other shit that is literally siphoning
Yeah.
creational life force.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we can't create, which is our birthright, how do we evolve? We can't evolve. And so the point here is to stunt our evolution. And that's why the sun is so important, because it's the sun that helps us evolve.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. The creativity is it's so potent and key to embracing your femininity for both men and women,
Yeah.
to getting into who you really are. Shit, it's like story of my life. I'm like, this piece behind me here, I'm like coming out. I can't even see the whole thing, but I'm like coming out of my own. This is like what it's like. Like over
Yeah.
the rainbow, I searched for the answers and I
Mm,
found a mirror. I
yeah.
found it was me. I was the slave, I was the master, I was the janitor, I was the king, I was the queen, I was everything. It's like the
Yeah.
only person that holds the keys to the prison is you.
Absolutely.
It's wild. And that, like what you were saying earlier about freedom, it's so true. It's a choice. It's a choice because you are so free that you can choose slavery. And a lot of people, especially right now, are fighting for their own slavery. They're
Oh,
fighting to keep the systems that enslave them alive because they're so scared to
yeah.
face it. They programmed it in that they're so scared to face. And this is such a huge part of the conversation about mother. And I don't want people necessarily to think, okay, and when I say mother, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this,
Mm,
it doesn't necessarily mean like I had a child, right? It's this
absolutely.
mother energy, right?
Mhm.
It's creation. It's
It's creation.
creativity. Yeah.
It's
It's
creational.
and that's what they don't want because when you're creating your life and you're creating you and you are creation, which is source, which is mother Gaia, which is all of existence and everything,
Yeah.
the game is over. There is no power struggle because you are everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where we're moving, I feel like, in this new time that's coming, and I know I'm so happy that you're on talking about this because this is just so critical. Your work
Mm.
and your services, it is. It's so critical for both men and
It's
women during this time, teaching people how to see. Call it because that's what it is. It's not even them. It's not
tough.
even the evil. It's literally our allowing of it,
Yeah.
our
Mhm.
paying for it. So teaching people how to see
100%.
mentorship, DNA activations. Can you share a little bit about, your work and how people can get involved, like what the custom processes that you help people with?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's always really difficult to articulate because a lot of the work I do is very tailored.
Right.
So it's very bespoke, obviously, to the person's journey, where they're at and where they want to get to. So let's talk about like the foundation of my work, right? If I had to say a few words on that, it is about number one, helping you to really develop refined discernment, for one thing, right? And we only do that when we can dissolve dissolve all the, again, fake things that we like, we all come here with our soul's values, right?
Yeah.
Then as we grow up and everybody tells us who to be and how to behave and all these things, and like school says this and my family says that and my culture says this and my friends do that and the government says this, and it's all systemic. It's all systemic. And then we lose ourselves. We lose that 3-year old, that pure soul that is innocent and like truly the most authentic expression of your soul is found in that 3 or 5-year old self, right? That part of you is so creational, so curious, so open, so abundant. Okay. So a big part of my work is getting you back into right relationship and connection. First, with the authentic parts of yourself. Who are you? Who are you really? What are you really here to do? Who are you really here to be? And it's only when we can move through that that we then move even deeper into establishing a connection to, you want to call it source, God, universe, goddess, whatever word you want to use for it, right? So there's many different ways that we do this in terms of like different modalities that I use. These like VIP I say in the corporate world they're called like VIP days, but like I call them DNA activation days because
Love it.
yeah, cuz that's literally what we're doing. Where like there's so much science now that like really can prove what the ancients have known in terms of meditation, sound frequency, like what it does literally to the waters of our body, how it restructures the cells in the waters. We understand that when we understand that everything in the universe is pattern and that
Mm,
pattern is made to evolve,
mm,
like from a triangle to like the sacred geometrical figures, like that's
mm.
evolution.
Yeah.
And that's literally what's happening in the body. Unless we choose to stunt it because we are choosing comfort. We're
Yeah.
choosing to be a slave to our comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my job is to support you to find the courage through various modalities, whether that's like certified, like I say certified, but breath work, there's sound healing, plant medicine, mentorship coaching, spiritual expansion, activations, wisdom teachings, going to the sacred sites and sacred lands where really that's where the codes are. Like that is literally where Gaia hosts this beautiful culmination of energy, specifically just waiting for you to sit with it.
Yeah.
Right? Literally remember, right?
Yeah.
So many aspects. So I do sacred travel. So I do small groups and I bring them to different parts of the world. And we just do this whole, well, Egypt is coming up in October, but we do this very, like I like to call Indiana Jones meets Cleopatra style experience
Ooh.
where essentially when I talk about a luxury experience, what I'm doing is I'm trying to offer you as priestess the rights of luxury, which is like returning the light.
Yeah.
Lux is light. It's to return the light into your experience. So it's like showing you what luxury is from an organic standpoint versus a very materialistic synthetic standpoint, right? Let's return you to mother.
Mm.
Let's return you to mother. That's like the core of my work. And how I do that, depending on if it's a man or a woman, is very different, right? Women, we do a lot of, we go into womb healing. We go, because that's another piece to this. And I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. There are so many women now who have adopted a lot of the sacred arts in whichever way that they want to serve that, be of service to it. Shaman, priestess, oracle, tarot, like well, all the
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
Ladies, I'm here to say that if you are in service in this way, which is absolutely beautiful, if you are not tapped in to your womb, that is where the oracle is found.
It's so true.
And so this is where we need to be when we are in service to these really sacred arts. And this is like why I got so many women come to me. They're like, I've done all these things. I've done all the things and I'm still dysregulated or I'm still in pain or like da, 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 all these things. And I'm like, have you addressed the one place where most women don't want to go?
Yeah.
And it's the womb. Right. And men even come to me to help support like their
Yeah.
partners, their wives, their
Yeah.
daughters, like, So yeah, that's just in a nutshell, that's part of the work I do. And I like to teach, like I do teach what I call I'm part of the order. I say part, I hold a lineage called the Order of the Blue Rose. So this is a rose lineage. It is a priestess path. So I do a 1 year feminine embodiment path for women who don't want to become priestesses, but then it's a 2 year path for those that actually want to go into initiated priestesshood. So
Wow.
yeah, different things, different things.
That's so beautiful and so beautifully said. If you
Thank
are
you.
not tapped into the womb space, that is God,
That is
source,
God.
whatever you want to call it. We are literally, people forget. I'm so glad you brought it up because people forget. It's just run over. We are physically, through our womb, connected to the other side, to the non physical, all the time.
All the time.
Men don't have, they have the sacral, they still have the womb, but they don't have the mitochondrial DNA. They contribute, the father contributes 0 mitochondrial DNA to that ancestral line. So
Yeah.
literally, we are traced like spiritually through our mothers. So of course, no wonder they in the West were like, oh, we'll have, the last name belong to the father. It's
Yeah.
actually the opposite. The last name, if you want to trace lineage, should belong to the mother because that's how
Yeah.
it's all, we're connected to God
Yeah.
physically. And
Yeah.
if you're doing work like that, like you said, spiritually, you have to address that part because it's literally inside of you.
Totally. 100%. And I just want to, I'd love to add to this because see the
Yeah.
piece of discernment. Okay.
Yep.
This is where like it gets, I'm going to try to articulate this in the best way, but I always like to say that discernment is wisdom in action. What is wisdom? Right? When you look at the word Sophia, wisdom. Christ, Sophia, Christ comes from the word Christos, which comes from anointed. Okay, that's what it means. That's what like Christ actually means. What does anointed mean? To literally be anointed by source God, to walk the way of truth. Simply, that's all it means. And our discernment must come from being tapped into Sophia,
Hmm.
wisdom, experience, which is the feminine principle. Otherwise, discernment cannot be put into masculine action.
Yeah. Wow.
Discernment is, it's really the intellect and the intuition. It's the logos,
Hmm.
right? Right. And the intuition is the feminine. So discernment, like I keep telling everybody, discernment is literally a superpower that you're going to want to hone in at this particular time in the collective,
God, yeah.
especially with the rise of AI and all the things. And it's like, again, trying to mimic as close as possible what is organic.
Yeah.
They're creating quantum computers that mimic the womb right now.
Yeah.
Why? Let's think of that. Why would they want to do that? Anyway, but not to put the
Yeah.
fear into anything, but just to say, hey, you get to empower yourself when you do the inner work, when you face your shit and heal yourself, right? And basically really descend, right?
Yeah.
Into the unknown, into the subconscious, into the mystery, which is where the feminine resides. So,
Wow. The discernment, such a not talked about enough part of the feminine polarity.
yeah,
Discernment. That's that calling out the bullshit, the sacred truth. That's a slang way of putting it, but yeah, it's that
yeah,
wisdom, the
yeah.
discernment. Wow. What is one thing, while we're on the topic of discernment, what's one thing you could recommend all people start today and one thing that they stop today
Mm.
to help them connect with their discernment, with their spirit, and see through the matrix?
The first thing that comes to my mind, which is really like wise words, stop pointing the finger and start taking responsibility for your choices. If you are able to do that, that is like step one. We create our reality. We are not victims to it. And so long as we remain in this belief that we are victim to all the things, we will never be the creators of our own life. It's cause and effect. Become the effect of your cause and not somebody else's.
Yes. And also to say, I think people, and I speak for myself as well, have confused creation with control. Very
Mm,
different. They're very different.
yeah.
Creating your life doesn't mean necessarily you don't have control over 100% of the things that happen. Like, you're in this world with other people, you have control over you, your
Yeah.
time, your energy, you. If
Yeah.
someone decides to come up to you, punch you in the face, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's certain things we're born into this matrix of lies, like rent still due on Monday. We
Yeah.
hold both. We hold both. We know the
Totally.
lies and we know the truth. So it's like
Totally.
a that is the lesson, I feel like, and I speak for myself on this. I don't know about you, that something I have had to come to learn is discerning creating versus letting go of the grip and surrendering and trusting, because it's a co-creation here
Yeah.
with source. Yeah.
Yeah. We are so okay. I love this because, again, when you look at womb consciousness, the womb is what is constantly dreaming things into creation,
Yeah.
right? And there is a co creation with, like, yeah, it's like source, God, learning how to dissolve fear and turning that into faith.
Mhm.
Okay. The faith that you are always exactly where you need to be, that you're always being guided.
Yep.
Faith that there is a will greater than yours that wants something way better for you than you could ever imagine.
Totally.
That's divine will. Creation comes through not simply surrendering to divine will, but accepting. I love to use the word acceptance over surrender because there's so many people that have this kind of residue program around surrender that it means
Yeah.
you lost something. Like, you didn't
Yeah.
lose anything when we can accept. And when we are in acceptance to what is, we are
Yes.
actually working in the essence and energetic of the feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Absolutely 100%. Because it's truth. And you try this at home, people. Try letting go of the steering wheel just a little bit. Loosen the grip because your dreams are looking for you. What
Totally.
you want. It's not just you, and I have to put all this shit out and have this. It's you know what I'm saying, and it's that acceptance, and or I say surrender, but it's not a giving up. It's a letting,
Mhm.
letting yourself receive. It's like coming
Allowing.
more into that. Yeah,
Oh, that's a whole other thing
it's a whole.
with womb consciousness is like,
Mhm.
for women, the pushing and the constantly the to do and the outward
Yeah,
action oriented really
yeah,
goes against the natural ability of womb to receive. Like, she is designed, her technology is to receive, right? So it's not to say that women have to sit around all day and eat grapes and pretend like they're going to get everything. That's not the point. The point is, like,
no, no,
our nervous system, like, we have to, like, we are designed so differently. And when our nervous systems aren't um, regulated, and I say regulated or integrated, like when we're not really integrated or rooted, we store all of this, like, really primal fear, which is literally the root chakra,
right,
right? That affects the sacral.
yeah,
So it's the rooting in as women, right? In this regulation that we can establish within our bodies when we allow soma and body and womb to guide us as oracle. We're in co-creation with
yeah,
source. We're in acceptance, right? And we're not pushing.
yeah,
We're not pushing. We are receiving. And then it's our responsibility once we receive to create. So the creation becomes the action, right?
indeed.
The outward. Yeah.
Incredible words of wisdom. It's so true. And it's now time for the most wisdom filled part of our show, the biohacking with art finale question. Ready.
Okay.
She's tapped in, tuned in. She's all up in her womb. She's born ready. So, if you had to describe your
Mm.
healing and spiritual work with any art medium,
Mm.
how would you make it and what would you choose?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question. Oh, and it's funny because as I close my eyes and I listen to the question and I'm like literally seeing these visuals, I'm going to do my best to put word to what I'm seeing, okay? Like through this
Beautiful.
download. But what I'm seeing is just this beautiful tapestry of stained glass in the most vibrant colors. And so to some that might be really churchy, but what I'm seeing is not necessarily I see it as just there's a reason why actually stained glass, if you want to get into a lot of the esoteric stuff, but there's a reason why stained glass was what it was and was placed in these very strategic structures that stood over very sacred lands and all the things. But what I love about stained glass, and actually what I think is really interesting is like my mom, actually, when I was growing up, she really got into making different beautiful like stained glass pieces. And I was always fascinated of how the light would hit the glass, right? And the color spectrum that would come through it. And so for me, it really speaks to the totality of our potential, the totality of evolution, the colorful spectrum, everything that's in between the dark and the light, and how through our own work, our own evolution, and how we are of service can be that colorful. It can be in co creation. It is creative when all the colors are, abound and there and seen. So there's something there for me about, again, how the sun hits the glass and how the color can morph itself into many, even just many shades of, let's say, blue or many shades of red. Or this is what I see. I don't know if that really answers your question, but I feel like that
Yeah.
really speaks to the way not only I walk my life, but also how I teach. And like my journey's been so colorful. It's been all of it. It's been everything. There's none of this like bypassy love and light. Like it's
Yeah.
been shadowy and it's been really beautiful. And it's just like all of it. And we're here to be all of it.
Yeah.
So
We
yeah.
are. Oh my gosh. So beautifully said. And I love the image that you created there. Yeah, the colors. And it's something too that I loved looking at all how all of the light would hit different things and you can only see those objects because of the shadow and vice versa. You can only see the light because of the dark, the dark
Yeah.
because of the light and adding color to that. Absolutely beautiful. And it totally matches just the spectrum that we're living in.
Totally.
This
Yeah.
whole time is like stained glass and especially because it's very fragmented or it can
Yep.
be too, but it looks up one image, right? It makes one image. So it's really speaks to this time as being so distorted and fragmented. But the
Yep.
silver lining of that is because of that contrast, we are able to actually, when you do start to awaken, see the picture so much clearer
Yeah.
because of that contrast,
Yeah.
because it was hard.
Absolutely. 100%. That's
Yeah.
that's what like for me, my personal experience, that's how any wisdom I share has been gained
Mhm.
through contrast and repetition of a pattern that finally decided to die
Mm.
after I had to live it out multiple times to get the lesson. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Trust me. I totally understand. Totally understand. It has been so real chatting with you today. We're going to put all your info in the show notes, but just really
Yeah.
quick, how can people connect with you, learn more? Where can they find you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Email is the best way. So
Okay.
I do have a website. Currently, the website is www.intamana.ca. I am in a major revamp at the moment. So that'll be coming soon. But yeah, email is the best way to get in touch with me. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm not a big Instagrammer. I have to be in the mood. So that's at
Yeah.
priestess underscore of the blue fire. And let me see, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Selvia Filteau. Selvia Filteau, LinkedIn. And yeah, those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me and see what I do for work. And you can subscribe to my newsletter through my website and be updated on any of the fun experiences that I am creating for everybody in 2025. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes. And there's going to be some really fun ones. So I'm so excited for everything that you're bringing into this world. And I just want to thank you for not only your words of wisdom, but just being who you are and the
Mm,
gift that you are to this world. We all get to benefit. And I hope everyone is able to take away something from this galactic conversation we've had here today that how things go out, face their shit, therefore healing themselves.
yeah,
And remember, as always, the truth will set you free. We will see you all next
100%.
time.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
If you liked this episode or you think this show would be useful for someone else, the best way you can show your support is to share it on your social media outlets with family and friends, or subscribe with the link below to receive exclusive perks. And if you're feeling really generous, please leave a review on podchaser.com, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and pick up a signed copy of my book about how I healed myself from endometriosis on my Instagram at Meredith W. Ochoa. Thank you so much for listening and for having the bravery to face your shit and heal yourself.